Are marital relations after menopause venial sin? Yes, according to the saints and tradition of the Catholic Church. However, after the approval of NFP, the natural order has been smashed, and now anything goes as long as it's love. So it is time to debunk the lies from the status quo that you've heard so many times and support the claims that I'm making. I'm John Farrell, your NFP spiritual dictator, and this is Annulment Proof.
Mama, it's menopause. No more children can be bred. Now my ovaries are dead.
Yikes.
Mama,
reminds me a little bit of 1 Timothy 2:15.
no,
Yet
it's
she shall be
not
saved
my
through
fault.
childbearing if she continue in
I
faith
once
and
was
love and
born
sanctification
to different
with sobriety.
ways.
Turn these gals off. Come back to them later. There's some more parts of the song I kind of like. Yeah, but make hay while the sun shines, you might say, because it's not going to be forever, obviously. And this is sort of what's going on nowadays is there's all this second and third marriages and people trying to keep the 20s going into their 60s and 70s, all right? However, there's just been people don't ask the question, boy, if we have marital relations under a full moon or 3 weeks after Easter, is that a sin or anything? No, because everyone knows that. But the question of, is NFP a mortal sin, or is it sinful, or is relations after menopause any kind of sin? People continue to ask that because nature is saying, yeah, it is. But Catholic Answers and Catholic Inc. keep saying, no, it's not. All right. Now, I have uncovered some info, and I'm going to put it all together for you. So by the end of this video, we should have a pretty clear indication that marital relations after menopause are venial sin. It's in the Bible, St. Thomas Aquinas, other saints, encyclicals. Let's take a look at what I'm talking about. So this is our first victim here. These guys are pretty cool. That's the Fatima Center. So it's the other end of the spectrum from the Aquinas 101 guys. Or they got another NFP video out. It's crazy. We're going to get there. So much to do, so little time. Let's hear from the priest talk about what he thinks about relations after menopause and related topics. It's not long, but there's not a lot of info on it.
So here's the question. If the point of marriage is to have children, then why does the church allow two people who are too old to have children to get married even though they know that they can't physically have kids anymore? Well, first of all, the church allows these marriages because the Lord allows them. So, yes, let's nail a few things down. The primary purpose...
Because the Lord allows old people to marry, that's right, because you have a right to the conjugal act perpetually for life. And as long as you can do the conjugal act, you don't have to be able to get pregnant to do the conjugal act. There's more to this, so hold on. But that is the reason why.
Of the marriage act by which new children are generated in the union of man and woman. Yes, the primary purpose of that act, which is enshrined in and safeguarded in the sacrament of marriage, or marriage according to the natural law, is, as is clear, is the begetting of children, the generating of children.
And this is why people keep asking the question, is it sinful after menopause? And you'll hear some Catholic Answers in a minute. Because people know, aren't we supposed to be having kids here? What's going on? Also, as everyone knows, nature kind of has a way of letting you know there's different hormones and changes, and it's like, hence the first song. But that song's decent, and there's more to it. Hang on.
And then in the context of marriage, the children who have been generated by the couple and created by God are, safeguarded and helped and to grow, to be educated and trained,
educated,
and protected,
as my wife would say.
To grow up as good citizens and above all good children of God, sons and daughters of God.
Right, procreation.
So that's the primary purpose of the act. And then God has also provided the act as protection and relief in case of grave temptations, that together the two of them can...
All right, so he's talking about remedy of concupiscence, right? Right. Secondary. We're going to come to that. We're going to talk about that.
Help each other in that department and show love and affection. But the primary purpose is the generation of children.
You must have the primary. You must be pursuing the primary. If you're not pursuing the primary, what are you pursuing? Something other than what nature is built for primarily. Duh. Okay, that's where the venial sin part comes in when everything else is in place. It's not tricky, but this is the kind of thing that everybody knew until NFP came to town and blew all structure out completely. Now everything is fair game, free game, as long as it's, like I say, loving.
And no one may ever, that is, it is never licit to act against this.
It's never licit to act against procreation. That is correct. So this is not, he's going into contraception now, which is not the question, all right? You've got to watch these guys because he doesn't quite know how to answer this because NFP won't allow him to answer it like his picture of St. Pius X in the back would have said. It's venial sin because 1 Corinthians 7:6 calls the remedy of concupiscence an indulgence. So if you have to do that, if that's your reason, it's an indulgence. That's a venial sin.
However, the Lord has not forbidden, basically here's the answer, is that the Lord has not forbidden older people from getting married.
Of course not, because like I said, I'm going to turn this heater down. The old people can't, anyone can get married as long as you can fulfill the contract. The fertility is up to God, but you don't get to have normal relations after menopause. It's a venial sin to do so, but it's a legal thing. It is lawful, but it is a pardonable. It's something it's venial. We'll go into more why in a minute. I'm getting there, okay? We're trying to keep it all together.
Even though it can be prudently foreseen, apart from a miracle, that they will not have children. And so the reason why the church allows it is because...
So he's jumping all over the place. He doesn't know what the guy is. He said everything so fast. What he's doing is now he's flipped into, he's trying to say, how come you can get married if you're old? Now he's saying contraception is wrong. Now he's talking about NFP immediately without even mentioning the fact that he's changing the subject to NFP. It goes really fast. He's got nothing to say other than, as long as you're not doing contraception, it's fine. It makes no sense because you're not, there's no procreation going on. You've got to be patient with me. We're going to get to the end of this video together, all right? And by the way, I always tell people, you just comment your heart out and I always get back. I'll get back to you 15 times if necessary so we can take care of business rather than running off like everybody else seems to in the comment section who makes videos on this topic. Okay. Again, Father, go ahead.
Have children. And so the reason why the church allows it is because the Lord allows it. Now, St. Paul somewhere does encourage people to remain single if they become widows or widowers, but he does not forbid it because that would be going against the law of God. So
Right. Oh, that's a good point. If I don't know, man. I've just noticed when older people get remarried, it doesn't go as well. It's like, where's your real spouse? The spouse that, your wife or your husband you had for 39 years or 50 something. What are you doing? It just doesn't seem, something doesn't, has that been your experience? Because that's everything I've noticed, everything I've witnessed, all these remarried people, it's like, doesn't look right. Doesn't right. I mean, get this done in your 20s and you're done. You can only say I do once, as they say. I think I may have skipped over what he said. Let's keep going.
he does not forbid it. And so, of course, this is a completely different case from somebody doing something All
right, so we did kind of skip over. Let's go back for a second. He was talking about NFP.
Because that would be going against the law of God, because the Lord allows it. Now, St. Paul somewhere, older people from getting married. Basically, here's the answer, is that the Lord has not forbidden older people from getting married, even though it can be prudently foreseen, apart from a miracle, that they will not have children. And so
okay.
reason why the church allows it is because the Lord allows it. Now, St. Paul somewhere does encourage people to remain single if they become widows or widowers, but he does not forbid it because that would be going against the law of God. So he does not forbid it. And of course, this is a completely different case from somebody doing something proactively before, during, or after to prevent, like to block.
Now he's talking about contraception. He's, for some reason, which has nothing to do with the topic. He's saying contraception is wrong. Actively blocking the procreative act is wrong. Okay, continue.
To stop the generation of children, and that is gravely wrong. And even though God has built into the whole marital thing, the fact that the couple is not fertile all the time, this should only be used for serious or grave reasons.
Now he's talking about, like I said, he just brought up NFP for no reason, but he's saying if you're not fertile all the time, you have serious reasons, you can use NFP. That why he's bringing that up, I'm not quite sure, but he's trying to make some point here.
The popes have taught. So that's the answer as to why.
He didn't answer it. He just says, don't block anything and use NFP if you want to. No. All right. Let's. I think
people
that's
are
the end
allowed
of
to
him.
get married, assuming that they are free to be married, as in not married to someone else still alive. So may God strengthen in those of you out there who have the sacrament.
He just said, basically, there's no problem with marital relations in menopause. That's effectively what he communicated. He says contraception is wrong, and then he says you can use NFP for grave reason, because that's what the popes say. If you can use NFP for grave reason, you don't have to pursue procreation. Therefore, like I said, you can, whatever the heck you want to do works, because we don't need to pursue procreation anymore. This is why I say NFP law trashes marriage and turns it into a structureless free-for-all, and the tyranny of will prevails. Let's look at my notes real quick before we go to the next video, okay, y'all? Okay? Because it kind of gets to this point, all right? We're going to cover sort of what he was talking about and why he's wrong about the relations, as long as it's okay during NFP, it's okay during menopause. Hold the phone, all right? We're gonna there's a lot of stuff to cover, and it can't be done really super short. I mean, it can, but I'm trying to get it thorough for y'all. So there was our 1 Timothy 2. That's that window of time to have kids, to do the thing, is from age 16 to 50, and that's kind of what's going on. So do that and then be done. That's what's up. It's not, but like we keep saying, it's all about love. You kind of keep going, right? And then you take HRT and whatever. Okay, now, yes. So this is because I suffer not to teach, but let the woman learn in silence with all subjection. But I suffer not a woman to teach, nor to use authority over the man, but to be in silence. Boy, that sounds harsh, cruel, and misogynistic. What's going on? There's a reason why, and the reason is because once upon a time, for Adam was formed, then Eve. So we got Adam first, then Eve. So it's like more, it's a different hierarchy, different dignity. Okay? And Adam was not seduced, but the woman was seduced. All right? So was seduced, was in the transgression. So Adam was first, she was second. And all the saints will say this. Adam, it's right there in the Bible. Adam was not seduced, but she was. Therefore, what? Yet she shall be. So she's really messed up. She's in trouble. All ladies are in trouble because of what Eve did. The men are in trouble too, what Adam did, and they got to work. But what does she have to do? She has to have a bunch of kids. That's what, okay? She shall be saved through childbearing if she continue in faith, love, and sanctification with sobriety. She won't be saved if she doesn't continue. So it's right now. So this is another problem with menopause too. It's like people think they kind of miss the boat, or have your kids now. That's it. Get married young. Just get married with the right contract. You can see me for more details on that, or watch my other videos. There's lots of that. We got to help the Gen Z out there. Now, we're going to have to get into Casti 59 one more time, just like last week or whatever, because of what the priest just said about the relations. He had to bring up NFP because he's basically saying, look, if you can do NFP, then sure as heck you can do relations after menopause, because you're not, quote, doing anything, which is exactly what Catholic Answer says. You're just being natural, right? Wrong. Okay, let's look at Casti Connubii 59, and you can translate from all different languages, so I just grabbed the French one because it was kind of interesting what they said, and this makes the most sense. It helps to make sense out of it, because when you read Casti Connubii 59, it gets a little weird, okay? You got to check it out. So, Nor should spouses who exercise their marital rights according to sound and natural reason, which means they're doing it for the right, they're making sense out of what they're doing it for the right reason, which is venial matter, be accused of unnatural acts, which would be mortal, grave matter. Okay, if for natural reasons, due to either temporary, that would mean monthly cycles, so for temporary circumstances or for certain physical defects, new life cannot result. That is what Casti 59 is about. All right. So if the monthly cycles or a sterility defect is okay, then let's look at so it's all about, it's just, if you want to do the act correctly within nature for natural reasons, for sound reasons, and not unnaturally, everything has to be the intrinsic nature plus the purpose. And that means you're 25 years old and you can get pregnant. The monthly cycles don't make it unnatural. You don't have to pursue procreation. You don't have to track your cycles to make sure it's only when you're fertile. Duh. That's what that means. This does not mean that after menopause, it's cool. And the reason why is because it's not a sound and natural reason to have relations after menopause. It's not. I got an analogy for that in a minute. Hold on, okay? Now, let's look at, and then we'll go back to some videos and stuff. Bear with me, guys. All right, now, the Italian translation of Casti Connubii. Indeed, both in marriage and in the use of the matrimonial rite, secondary ends are also contained, which is what he was talking about in the video, the priest, such as mutual assistance and the fostering of mutual affection and the quieting of concupiscence. Those are secondary ends. They're all contained in the matrimonial rite. You have the right to those. Yeah. All right? And the spouses are not prohibiting from desiring. Provided, so there's a proviso, there's an exception. You can desire those things, but you're prohibited unless if the intrinsic nature is messed up. Provided the intrinsic nature of the act and consequently its subordination to the principal end is always respected. All right. This goes back to the French translation there. It's the intrinsic nature and subordination this is the way that you're allowed to pursue secondary ends naturally and well, is when everything is in the yes column, not just most things, everything. The intrinsic nature as well as the purpose. All right. So when you're pregnant, there's no purpose there. When you're after menopause, there's no purpose there. So postmenopause violates sound and natural reason, and that's why it's a venial sin. And I'm going to get into the proof, the receipts to back up what I'm saying, you guys. Hang on. All right, here's a little analogy I came up with. So a lot of I have reams of quotes from popes and saints and stuff from 2000 or 1800 years ago, and that. When you put more seeds upon seeds, that's what during pregnancy is. So a farmer does not plant a bunch of seeds and then the next day go plant a whole bunch more, and then a week later go plant a whole bunch more on those crops. He's already seeded his field. It's done. This doesn't it's not a sound and natural reason to keep putting seeds out. He might like it. He might really dig putting seeds out there. It's not sound. It's not natural. You don't do that, okay? This is why relations during pregnancy is sin. And you can mess up the kids because the kids inherit the sin of the parents. All the saints will say that. The older saints will say that. Okay. What about during menopause? Seeds upon a cement slab. That's what that is. Post-menopause. There's no nature there. There's no egg there. You aren't using sound and natural reason when you have relations during menopause, because procreation primary means you're supposed to be trying to have babies. Ain't nothing there. You're throwing your seed onto a cement slab. Doesn't make sense. Why would the farmer do that? Let's go hey, Walmart parking lot, who's with me? We're going to plant some corn. Cool. It's sound and natural. I'm banging my head with a hammer. Whatever. That's how dumb it is. That's why people keep asking, is this sinful marital relations after menopause. Yeah, you can't get away from it. Even if Catholic answers keep telling you you can, people will keep asking because nature knows. People know. That's why we just have to go back and look before 1950 to find out what people had to say before all this love got going. Actually, it got going like Christopher West, his great-great-grandpa got it all started, and Dietrich von Hildebrand. All right. While we're here, let's look at a little Aquinas, and then we'll go to Catholic answers. We'll go back and forth for you guys. We're almost there. Look, Aquinas. Now, he says, and I've said this before, but we're going to say it again because it's repetition, mother of learning. Consequently, there are only two ways in which married persons can come together without any sin at all. Wow, what are the two ways? Namely, in order to have offspring and in order to pay the debt. Not in order to have offspring or in order to pay the debt. It's and. So you have one person is paying the debt, the other person's having offspring. Dig it? Okay? Those are the two ways. One spouse is trying to get pregnant, that's the agent, and the other is paying the debt. That's how you avoid any sin. Otherwise, it's always at least a venial sin. Okay, so when you're having relations after at age 67 or something, what's going on? Are you trying to have offspring? No. Are you trying to plant corn in the Walmart parking lot? Is that what you're really doing? Or are you just kind of having a good time throwing your seeds around because you can dig that? Maybe. No, it's legal. It's perfectly fine. I'm not hurting anyone. I'm just throwing seeds in the Walmart. Duh. At least pick a better parking lot, but maybe you'd fit in there. Anyway, required on the part of the agent. Yeah. Is the intention of the due end. So, you have one agent in the conjugal act. That's the person who is initiating whatever, and required on the part of that agent is the intention of the due end, procreation. And thus, the offspring is accounted a good of matrimony. So that offspring is the due end. It ain't love, baby. No. Sorry. That's all newspeak. Wait till you see the wordsmithing we're going to get into with Mr. Tom Nash, my Facebook friend who's playing hard to get, and he talks a lot on Catholic Answers. We're going to get there. Here's a little Augustine. It's venial sin to ask for the debt, but not to pay for the debt if you do not intend children. It's venial sin to ask for the debt, but not to pay the debt if you do not intend children. Yes, okay. If you don't want to get pregnant and you request the debt, it's venial sin. Right from Augustine's mouth, okay? Got that? For necessary sexual intercourse for begetting is free from blame. Wow, everyone says no. If you just have normal intercourse, it's totally cool. In fact, it's like makes you holier and stuff. Nope. Okay, back to the heater. Not low. All right. And itself alone is alone worthy of marriage. So for necessary sexual intercourse is begetting is free from blame, and itself alone is worthy of marriage. But that which goes beyond this necessity no longer follows reason but lust. Okay, so if you're everything's cool if you're trying to have kids. That's what he's saying. But if you try to go beyond that, you're no longer following reason. It's like if you are trying to plant seeds on cement, you're no longer following reason, okay? But something else. And yet it pertains to the character of marriage, not to exact this, but to yield it to the partner, lest by fornication the other may sin what? That means if your spouse is really having a hard time and they just want the conjugal act, even though there ain't no procreation going on because of age or something, or because they're going to force NFP on you or whatever. Hey, you're the innocent spouse in the case, all right? They're doing everything quote naturally, but you have to let them know this is a sin, but it's cool for you. You're the innocent spouse. But if both are set under such lust, they do what is plainly not matter of marriage. Marriage, matrimony, become a mother. Now, if women can get as non-pregnant as men, then men can get as pregnant as women. This is why all this trans homo stuff it springs from NFP law. If nature is women don't get pregnant, if that's natural for women to not get pregnant, everything's natural. However, if in their intercourse they love what is honest more than what is dishonest, that is, what is matter of marriage more than what is not a matter of marriage, then this is allowed to them on the authority of the apostle as a matter of pardon. What the heck is he talking about? Hold on. However, if it is in their intercourse that they love what is honest more than what is dishonest, that is, the matter of marriage more than what is not matter of marriage, this is allowed to them as a matter of pardon. That's 1 Corinthians 7:6. So if they're not doing anything, they're not having any sort of family planning, but they just want to pursue the secondary ends alone, that is a pardonable offense. 1 Corinthians 7:6. There it is right there while we're on the topic. Aquinas says, on the contrary, wherever there is indulgence, which is the exact term used in 1 Corinthians 7:6, that come together, or lest Satan tempt you, but this is an indulgence. Wherever there is indulgence, there must needs be some reason for excuse. Now, marriage is allowed in the state of infirmity by indulgence. 1 Corinthians 7:6. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. All right? I'm going to make these words bigger. I didn't realize they were this small. Let me see if I can. Yeah. Sorry. There. Okay. Yeah. Wherever there is indulgence, there must needs be some reason for excuse. Now, marriage is allowed in the state of infirmity by indulgence. 1 Corinthians 7. Therefore, it needs to be excused by certain goods. Yes. Because otherwise it wouldn't be an indulgence. It'd be totally fine. Like Father Mike Schmidt says, dude, just whatever you got to do, as long as it's, quote, natural, it's fine. Well, natural means properly ordered, not just the nuts and bolts, okay? This you can read this over and over. It makes sense. And anyway, Aquinas, if you read it fast, you're just going to lose your mind. You got to really slow down to get it straight. And that's what I do, and I've got more we're going to comb through, and then anything I say that you want clarification on or whatever, I'll give it to you, or we'll figure it out together. But we don't play around, we don't gloss over, I don't run away, none of that stuff. All these guys, all this Catholic Inc. stuff, can't get to them, can't talk about it, maybe one or two chit-chats, but then they're like, this isn't working, I don't like this, I got something to say about Patrick Madrid and Father Pine from the Aquinas 101 Institute. We'll get to those guys probably another video, but that they're going sideways on me a little bit. Now then, we'll almost get to this, and then we're gonna go to one more video. Then we'll get to Tom Nash. Aquinas, on the contrary. Reply to objection 2. If a man intends by the marriage act to prevent fornication in his wife, it is no sin, which is exactly what Augustine just said. He's just paying the debt, okay? She's got the problem because she's not pursuing procreation. She's pursuing secondary ends. That's venial sin. That's what menopause is. But he's paying the debt, so it's no sin for him, because this kind of payment of the debt that comes under the good of faith, as in exclusivity, okay? That's what that means. One of the elements of marriage is exclusivity, faith. So that's part of the contract, in other words. But if he intends to avoid fornication in himself, then there is a certain superfluity, a.k.a. if he's just doing the act so that he is pursuing secondary ends, remedy of concupiscence, that is superfluous. That's lame. That's wimpy. Timothy Gordon, take notes. And accordingly, there is a venial sin. Wow, what did he just say? If you're not trying to get pregnant, it's venial sin. That's what he said. What happens in menopause? You're not trying to get pregnant. Venial sin. That's only way you can. That's only conclusion there is, unless all this Aquinas is out the frickin' window because NFP love wins and we don't want to talk about it. That's why when you call Catholic Answers, they kind of go click. Yeah. Nor was the sacrament instituted for that purpose. except by indulgence, which regards venial sins. There's a mouthful right there. Okay, but if he intends to avoid fornication in himself, then there is a certain superfluity, but accordingly there is venial sin. Nor was the sacrament instituted for that purpose. What purpose was the sacrament instituted for? I thought it was for love. I thought it was for secondary ends. I thought it was for bonding. Nope. No. It was instituted for one purpose, per Trent, per Genesis, for procreation. That was the one purpose. And I'll talk about Genesis in a minute, or 3. Instituted for that purpose, except by indulgence, which regards venial sins. So it's so straightforward. But like I said, NFP has trashed everybody's brain on this, and no one can get a handle on it. Okay, question. Aren't all post-menopausal relations indulgence? Children, what is the answer? Yes, they are. What else are you doing? We're celebrating. I don't care if you want to call it celebrating 4th of July. I don't care what you want to call it. You're not trying to get pregnant. You're not. You're throwing your seed on the Walmart parking lot and you're calling it profound love. It's stupid. It's just an indulgence, which you have the legal right to do, okay? But it's venial sin. This is why 2 80-year-olds can get married as long as they can fulfill the contract, the right over the body, if they can do the thing. But, you know what I mean? It's like, so my point overall is it's not all this is cracked up to be. Have your kids now, get it all done now, and that's kind of it.
This hellish cup turns a woman into wild banshees, banshees, banshees. So you think you can stop age and turn back time? So you think that your fountain of youth won't run dry? Oh, ladies, take it from me, poor ladies. It's gonna get you. Your time will soon come. Be prepared.
That's right. That's like I said. It's like now's your chance. This is it. We're not going to hang out. Like I said from the beginning, there's so much fountain of youth stuff going on and all this second marriages. Let's get our annulment and we'll just, I don't know. We'll do our retirement thing together. No. Not only that, it's just naturally not right. Doesn't make, as I said, it doesn't make sense. The point is, get married young and have your 17 kids and you'll be ready. You'll be done. That's kind of what's going on, all right? We're going to be celibate in heaven. We got to get prepared for that. Act as though you have no husband. Act as though you have no wife. Heard that before? That's what's going on. Sorry, Christopher West, to break the news. It's not a big old love fest, so to speak. Now, that's enough of them. Let's see if we can play a little Catholic Answers video. Patrick Coffin, where have you been?
So
it was a while ago.
Sexual activity
it's a little bit
marriage
quiet. Sorry,
after
guys.
The fertility
This one
years,
came in quiet.
or do you mean activity of any kind outside of marriage? You're talking about after the childbearing years, right?
Right.
Oh, great question.
Yeah, and this is an important question that many people struggle with sometimes because I don't think they really completely understand it. The church teaches that every act of intercourse must be ordered toward procreation.
That's true. Mr. Who's it? It's what's his name? Black Tom. Oh, I'm forgetting his name. He taught me how to argue really well. His hair is really long now, but what the frick is it? Something Blackman, or I'm trying to remember. Anyway, hold on. Let's keep going.
And that throws some people because they think, well, what if I'm at a point where I no longer can procreate? How can we accomplish that? Does that mean?
That's why people call and ask. That's right, because we can no longer procreate. So how do we do it? How are we supposed to do this if this is the primary purpose? Well, they're going to enlighten you on what the primary purpose is, I think.
Intercourse is no longer a possibility. And no, it does not mean that. In fact, infertility
Jim
itself
Blackman
doesn't, while it is a disorder maybe at a younger age, it's not a disorder at an older age. It is part of the way God made woman, and
it's not a disorder at an older age. Well, what is the order? Okay, what is the order? the order when, if you're in your JP2 NFP phase, is love wins. That's the order, which allows anything, okay? In the name of love, dig it?
And that once there is infertility, that's not an obstacle of itself, as long as the act itself remains ordered toward procreation.
He's kind of stuttering, or Jim Blackman? Jim Blackbeard? Blackman, I guess. Jim Black something. Anyway, as long as the act remains ordered toward procreation. Yeah, the act is, it's not reasonable to say it's ordered toward procreation. Just like you're not farming when you're throwing your seed at the Walmart park, in the Walmart parking lot. You're not during a burnout contest. You're not farming. Okay, you may tell yourself you are, but you're not. You know, I'm just doing what I normally do. I throw seeds, and I just happen to be in this parking lot. It's just nope.
Ordered toward procreation means that the act is the same as it would be if you were not infertile.
The act is not the same as if you ordered towards procreation. This is why I went over Casti 59 earlier. Right? It has to, if you are going to be doing your natural thing, you have to be reasonable, and you have to have all the nature in place, okay? So there has to be sound and natural reason, and it's okay if there's temporary circumstances, not permanent. Menopause is like a permanent circumstance. So for temporary circumstances, that's the monthly cycle, or if you have things beyond your control, like some kind of defect, okay? That's normal, natural, sound marital relations. 20-something years old, normal cycles, temporary cycles, that's what it takes, okay? But Catholic Answers is saying, no, it doesn't take that. And the reason they say that is because NFP says, forget all this garbage. NFP says, as long as it's the nuts and bolts are there, anything goes. God's in charge. Because we're going to try to not have kids with our NFP. That's why. Continue. Jim Blackman. Is that his name? God, I wish I could remember. I think that's it.
To introduce something that would frustrate that would become a barrier between the husband and wife, or that would include, say, sexual gratification apart from intercourse itself, then those things remain immoral.
Well, who cares about, we're not talking about that. We're trying to keep focus. So it's not about X, Y, and Z that are weird or extracurricular. It's like just normal relations after menopause. Is that okay? Jim Blackman, I think it's name.
Gratification apart from intercourse itself, then those things remain immoral, even within marriage. But as long as the couple continue to have relations that are ordered toward procreation, that they are the same moral act they were doing before, even though that act is now infertile.
They are different moral acts. The conjugal act at age 25 is different than the conjugal act at age 75. What are you talking about, John? It's the same act, the same people. It's the same nuts and bolts. It's the same everything, same biology. What are you talking about? No, the biology is different. You were throwing seeds into a fertile field, and now you're throwing seeds onto the Walmart parking lot. Cool? That's the difference. It's okay for a temporary infertile period per Casti 59, but it's not okay for a permanent infertile period that is a natural one. And I'm going to get into how Aquinas talks about this. So if you have a defect, that's okay. If you have a permanent defect, you're allowed to have relations that are infertile for the permanent defect for your whole life, because you have a right to those things, and that's okay, and that's not your fault. But pregnancy, menopause, those are not permanent, or those aren't defects, okay? So that's nature, that's out then. Hopefully that was clear, and I do want you to you just come at me in the comments, no problem. I'll be happy to get it all straightened out, because sometimes when you're just sort of talking on the fly, you don't get it all perfectly straight. In the comment section, we can slow down and really do that. All right. I think it's Jim Blackburn. I think that's his name. Yes. By the way, like I said, this guy taught me how to argue. Instead of being any emotion or worry, he focuses on the main kernel of the topic and goes straight to it and answers like Dr. Spock. That is the best way to deal with stuff. Otherwise, you're just, hey, you big jerk, blah. But now he doesn't. I got good. Now he doesn't argue with me at all. He's just like, I'm not, because he's all wet. He's goofed up. He's like total modernist on this love wins stuff. He won't even talk to me. No way. Nope.
Then that continues to be a moral action between a husband and a wife.
So that would be different from the couple deliberately impeding that act of intercourse.
They're doing the same thing as the priest did earlier. Patrick Coffin is now, he's got nothing to talk about except because it's like, it's awkward. Hello. Yeah, when you're trying to get pregnant, that's cool. But now you're not trying to get pregnant, and that's cool too, because pregnancy's procreation is number one, but not really, okay? So now Coffin is saying, look, as long as you're not using contraception, well, who's going to be using contraception at age 70? And of course, Elizabeth at age 88, when God told her, you throw your seed onto the cement and I'll make it sprout, she's not going to use contraception either, all right? So it's like a straw man, or there's no reason to bring it up. But let's listen to him talk about contraception a little bit more.
Couple deliberately impeding that act of intercourse from achieving its end.
That is completely
Just
different.
because they're infertile couples who are past the age aren't doing anything contraceptive.
Then why bring it up? And they're also not doing, it's stupid. Why even mention? He's trying to flesh out some sort of argument.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
But those who introduce contraception into the picture, they are frustrating that act. They're frustrating the order of the act. It's no longer ordered toward procreation. Infertility, natural infertility.
When you use contraception, it's no longer ordered toward fertility. Yeah, that's right. All family planning is contraception, because all family planning is contra baby. You can use euphemisms if you want. You can say we're postponing a baby, we're avoiding a baby, we're putting away, we're doing whatever. Temporary. No, it's all contraception, because babies come from conception. So it's all contraception. Let's back up a little bit. Hang on.
Infertility, natural infertility, for example, as Diane's talking about, isn't an obstacle to that.
Diane, does that shed some light?
Diane's talking about creation.
Hold
They're
on.
frustrating the order of the act. It's no longer ordered toward procreation. Infertility, natural infertility, for example, as Diane's talking about, isn't an obstacle to that.
Wait a minute. Natural infertility is not an obstacle, because contraception is, but natural infertility is not an obstacle. Oh, the reason they say, wait a minute, natural infertility is the monthly cycle when you're 25 years old, which is not an obstacle, but that's because it's temporary, but permanent is an obstacle. And the reason they're saying this is because NFP says, hang on, I got to think of what I'm saying to make sure I get go so quick. We'll go
who
again.
Are past the age aren't doing anything contraceptive.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
But those who introduce contraception into the picture, they are frustrating that act. They're frustrating the order of the act. It's no longer ordered toward procreation.
NFP is not ordered toward procreation. That's why they say menopause is fine, because you no longer need to be ordered toward procreation. Okay, so anything that is natural looking is fine. Therefore, you can never object to during pregnancy or during menopause once you accept NFP. And nobody said any of this stuff until the 50s and 60s, when NFP got quote unquote legalized because the Pope said so.
Infertility, natural infertility, for example, as Diane's talking about, isn't an obstacle to that.
Diane, does that shed some light on your question?
Yeah, so the natural infertility isn't an obstacle because again, it's for short term, but that's not this natural infertility is an obstacle because it's the only goods available to menopause are secondary. That's why it's an obstacle. Okay? But NFP is official pursuit of secondary ends alone or independent of. Therefore, Catholic morality on the conjugal act goes out the window when NFP comes in the window.
That answers it very clearly.
All right.
Yeah, she just got the answer she wanted, but it's not. This girl will probably still have conscience problems because she'd be like, it's still not making sense. Something's wrong here. And then, like I said, and everyone knows this, you need hormone replacement therapy because biology is trying to tell you something is not right here. Let's go to, hold on. You know who? A little more Catholic answers. Tom Nash. Okay. Tom Nash has got it bad. He's got the JP2 thing real hard. All right. Question. This is from the Catholic Answers article. You can find it. May married couples continue marital relations after menopause? Answer, yes. And that's because of NFP, like I said. Inscribed by God in the marital act is a bond between the unitive love-giving, doesn't that sound cool, and the procreative love-giving aspects. Okay, kids, anything wrong with this picture? Oh, no. Yeah, man. Okay, first. Bond is a weasel word which can be used to say anything or mean anything, okay? Like bond is some sort of, some lovey-dovey thing, this bond you feel, this unique relationship. No, it's just the one flesh reality that's exist. You're one flesh with your spouse. Doesn't matter how you feel, none of that stuff, okay? Now, between the unitive love-giving and the procreative life-giving aspects. Wrong. So this is why everything is up for grabs now, because as long as you're feeling unitive and love-giving and procreative life-giving, as long as you keep these on equal footing, which means unitive becomes number one by default because you don't always have to, you can't always get pregnant. You don't always have to because NFP. This whatever unitive love giving becomes new nature. The nature of love, the nature of unity, which means nothing. Everything's natural now because unity can be whatever you want. Oh, what's that word there? Aspects. An aspect is just a point of view. It's not nature. It's like I'm trying to think of an example. Cut your arm off at a certain aspect. No, don't cut my arm off at all. It doesn't care what aspect you use. Procreation is nature, is objective. Unitive love-giving is secondary, is unobjective, and is not nature. Okay? It's not. Marriage is an office of nature, not human nature. Deliberately thwarting this bond. See what I mean? They changed it. Thwarting the bond via contraception. No, you're not thwarting the bond via contraception. It's like thwarting your baptism. Hey, you can't do it. You're baptized. You're one flesh with your spouse. You can run your spouse over with a steamroller. You're still one flesh. It doesn't matter, or whatever you want to do. You're one flesh with them as long as they don't die. Okay? There's been very few steamroller survivors that get run over. Deliberately thwarting this bond via contraception is immoral because it undermines. Oh, this is so crazy. Deliberately thwarting this feeling of grooviness via contraception is immoral because it undermines the sexual expression of marital love. Oh, is that why? I thought it was because it blocks the primary purpose. No. Because it undermines the sexual expression of marital love by a husband and wife, an expression of love which by its nature is open to the fruit of new life. So, what's the number one purpose of marriage after NFP? Everyone, the expression of love. Why did the homos do it? To express love. What about the frickin' old folks at the old folks' home? To express love. That's the purpose, yo. So once you get going with this, the birth rates go down. The marriage law gets trashed. There's no contract. All there is a bunch of people doing the thing for no reason. For bad reasons. and disaster follows, and no one will discuss it because everyone's politics is involved, or their personal life, or their brother's annulment, or any number of things, and they won't touch it. Everyone wants their NFP because everyone wants to do the thing. Just ask Timothy Gordon. He'll tell you. All right? It's just a redefinition. That's all that's going on. I heard from watching the Remnant Underground, Matt, whatever his name is, he was telling me that the U.S. bishops are going to consecrate the USA to the Sacred Heart of Jesus. That's really good. We'll take it. Maybe something will come from that. Something certainly can. I hope so. On the other hand, when a woman becomes infertile, because this is still part of Tom Nash's article. On the other hand, when a woman becomes infertile because of age, or either spouse is infertile for reasons beyond their control during the wife's normal childbearing years. Okay, so they are conflating two different things. One is permanent, not their fault, and one is permanent nature. So one is a defect and one is not a defect, okay? Menopause is not a defect, but something beyond your control during the wife's normal childbearing years is a defect. It's not wrong if there's a defect, but menopause is not a defect. But NFP trashes the order, therefore they blend it all together. That's why I had to go through Casti 59, which we can do again if you want, or you can bug me in the comment section, or I'll have all the show notes to go through this. These guys put all Catholic morality on with the marital act in a blender and just push it for a minute and like, here you go, kids. We have to have order or we got chaos, and that's what we got. Like that Misfit song, Death and Destruction, and don't forget the chaos. The marital act is still a beautiful expression that renews their marital love. Wow. Sounds like Father Mike Schmitz was just in the room. The marital act is still a beautiful act expression that renews their marital. That's like so Protestant. Okay. The marital act is only good if it's excused by procreation. That renews their marital love. Well, I suppose it could, but all this stuff about it renewing your vows and your no. Because consent happened at the wedding. You don't need to have consent every time, but NFP says you do because it's all about love, baby. It's an unfortunate misconception. Oh, those unfortunate misconceptions. They keep popping up everywhere at Catholic Answers. That the church teaches otherwise. No, it's not. And you guys in your ivory tower won't ever talk about it. We're talking nature. All right, so what we have is JP2 redefinition of marriage, yet reality and nature keep nipping at the heels of the thing. And they call it an unfortunate misconception. They won't talk. They won't go there. Patrick Coffin used to say, we go there. And he should say, we, except some places. Wherever annulment proof wants to go, we don't go. We don't go there. Okay, for more, see the Catechism of the Catholic Church. Wouldn't that be fun? 2366. It is necessary that each human life and every marriage, that each and every marriage act remain ordered per se to the procreation of human life. I have said that Humanae Vitae contradicts itself, and here's an example. So every act must be made ordered to the procreation of human life. And when there's no human life possible, it can't be ordered, okay? All right? But the excuse are defects and temporary infertility like this monthly cycle. So age 16, age 14 and 16 up till age 50, there's your window. Knock yourself out, have a bunch of kids. After that, that's the way Catholics always had it. That's the way it always was. Marriages, there was no divorce. Everyone had 17 kids. Way better situation. Okay, now we don't care. We're pursuing self. And then it's horse and mule over them. The devil hath power. Now, I went to 2366 of the Catechism and footnotes to Humanae Vitae 11. And this is the Latin translation of Humanae Vitae. However, the Church, while reminding men of the observance of the precepts of the natural law, which she interprets with her consistent doctrine, teaches that it is necessary that every use of marriage remain destined by itself to procreate human life. That's straight up Catholic right there. Not everything in Humanae Vitae is bad. They get it right. Every use of marriage must remain destined. That's what they call it, the destiny. This is what, so by itself, that is also what's in the 1917 code. The permanent and exclusive right over the body for acts which are of themselves suitable for the generation of children. That means you need zero love added. Zero. Doesn't have to be in a human manner. Okay? None of this touchy-feely love, bonding, groovy stuff. That's it. Every use of marriage remain destined by itself to procreate human life. It doesn't have to have any admixture of charity. Nope, doesn't have to. It's good, you should, but it doesn't have to. We're talking the restricted legal sense for the proper procreation and education of children per casti, connubii, 24. Restricted legal sense. This sounds harsh and cruel. That means anytime I use the Marriage Act, I have to pursue that destiny without any love to get, in other words, I'm going to be pregnant all the time. Yeah, because of 1 Timothy 2:15. That's why. You want to be saved, you want to go to heaven. God set it up so there's going to be a lot of conjugal activity and you're going to have a bunch of kids. You don't want that. You can want hell instead, or you can just, my yoke is sweet and my burden light. So you go with it. It's cool to use other translations of church documents sometimes because sometimes the American translations, which other people know, can be editorialized and goofed up. Gaudium et Spes, if you go to the Italian or if you go to the Latin, it's better than the English. The English leaves some really weird things in there. I've talked about that before. And I'll give it to you in the comment section if you want. Okay, now, here's more Catholic Answers. I think this is a different Catholic Answers article. This is like article number 2. Did the church ever teach that sex was only for procreation? No. Buzzer, buzzer, buzzer. Yes, the church does and always. The church cannot change her teaching, and yes, it's only for procreation. The devil got there in Vatican II and said, it's not only for procreation anymore. Surely you don't believe that. It's right there in Gaudium 50 or 48. Surely you don't believe it's only for procreation. Of course, it's like gaslighting. It's for procreation per Trent, per Genesis, per the saints, the popes, and canon law. So they're wrong right there. The church has never taught, okay, children, pay attention. This is more wordsmithing crazy 101 right in front of your face, and you didn't even see it. It's hiding in plain sight. No, the church has never taught conjugal love was only for procreation. Look, the conjugal act is only for procreation, but conjugal love can be for a lot of stuff. So we have two different things. There's two, like I said, there's two natures. They added a new nature. It used to be just for procreation, but now they call it conjugal love. So conjugal love is what they call it now. And conjugal love must be for love, not for procreation. It only has to be open to procreation, but it has to be oriented toward love. Whatever that is legally, nobody knows, nobody can judge. Anyone wants an annulment, and you can never consent to a contract of love because there's no terms. And every marriage is now a mixed marriage because she has her terms of love and he has his terms of love, and who's true, who's right. When there's a fork in the road, you've got love option A and love option B. Which one is love? Let's just discern. Okay, it's called She Wins. It's like more. I'm going to do a video called Simp Factory. It's pretty good. I have so much stuff to react to. All right. Was only for procreation. If that were the case, the church would have always banned from marriage those couples capable of engaging in love. Oh, brother, this is nuts. Okay, the church ever teach that sex was only for procreation? No, the church has never taught conjugal love was only for procreation. If that were the case, the church would have always banned from marriage those couples engaging in love, and yet for reasons of sterility on the part of either spouse, not able to conceive. False, false, false. They keep switching these terms around. Love here, love there. Love wins, blah, blah, blah. No, like we said in Casti 59, if there are permanent defects, and we're going to get into the Aquinas on this in a minute, or 3 or 4, then it's okay. But they're conflating. They're like I said, they put all this marriage law in a blender because there's no more order. These guys are messed up, and they will not take questions. And for reasons of sterility on the part of either spouse, not able to conceive. Yeah. If it's out of your hands, okay? And if it's a defect. But menopause is not a defect. In addition, that's typically something spouses don't know until they're married, especially for most of church history. Yeah, that's right. So, as long as you can do the act, the kids are God's plan. Kids are God's department, all right? So it doesn't invalidate. If there's a defect, it's a defect. That happens. It's fine. The acts are fine with a defect, a permanent defect. Menopause is not a defect. It's a permanent nature thing. Therefore, it's God's way of nature's way of letting you know, nothing more going on here. Stop throwing your seeds on the Walmart parking lot. In addition, and greater testimonial weight, if the church taught conjugal love was only for procreation, the church would have banned all conjugal love after a wife reaches menopause. No, the church would not have banned that because God doesn't ban that, because Scripture doesn't ban that, but Scripture says it is say it with me, 1 Corinthians 7:6. What's the frickin' word? Come on, man. Hang on, I gotta look it up. An indulgence. 1 Corinthians 7:6. Now marriage is allowed by the state of infirmity by indulgence. That's what I was looking for. Now, okay, the church would have banned all conjugal love after a wife reaches menopause, but the church has never taught such. That is correct. The church has never taught there's a ban on it, but the church has taught and does teach that it's venial sin because it's an indulgence. Because you are not pursuing, nor can you pursue procreation. You cannot pursue farming by throwing the seed on cement. The church follows divine revelation. That sounds good, which notes that conjugal love. No. See, they keep swapping the terms. It's not conjugal love, it's the procreative act. Okay? The contractual act is for a man and a woman to become one in marriage. Wait a minute. The church follows divine revelation, which notes that conjugal love is for a man and a woman to become one in marriage. Okay, conjugal love may be for that, but that's not what the conjugal act is for. It's for procreation. Let's read about that in Genesis. What does it say? Wherefore, that means for this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and shall cleave to his wife, and the two shall be one flesh. So when you cleave to your wife, what purpose do you cleave to your wife for and become one flesh? What purpose? Why? For what reason do you become one flesh? Children, that's why. That's the reason for that behavior. Okay, you do become one flesh as a result, but the purpose of that is procreation. Let's look at Trent. The blessing in children. This was also the sole reason why God instituted marriage from the beginning. Roman Catechism, infallible, sole reason. That's what it is. But how do they get around this? The hippies in the 60s start calling it conjugal love. That's a totally different thing. Oh, I owe you $500 for that car? You know what? We're going to call that car a magical mystery machine, and I don't owe you any money for the magical mystery machine. I may owe you $500 for a car, but that's much more than a car. It's a magical mystery machine. Therefore, I don't owe you the $500, or I do, but you owe me so much more. They're just swapping around. Now you have two different legal. You got the magical mystery machine with the Scooby kids in it, or whatever the heck, and you have a van. Those are two different legal entities. This is what they've done with marriage. They've taken the restricted legal view and they've added on the expansive love view, and they've put it all together, and everyone's like, this sounds so great, it's blowing my mind. It has blown Christopher West's mind, that's for sure. I hear he's decent on guitar. I saw someone gave me a report about him recently. He does little impromptu little concerts and stuff with his guitar and his friends. Okay. And thus for mutual love and support, and also for the procreation and generation of children. Only one primarily, essentially, okay, the rest of it, not essential, like the mutual love thing. Unless we're going to call it conjugal love, then we put that first. We're putting that essential, and we do that so we can keep our little NFP going, okay? And then everything gets trashed all around us, but we're going for, this is classic. Look at gay pride marches. Look at what happens to society when you start like, okay, we don't want to turn out like Rome. We don't want to turn out like Sodom and Gomorrah. They don't care. They're going to keep pedal to the metal with their impurities because they can't stop. Horse and mule, blinded, they're just going to go for it. These NFP people, pedal to the metal, NFP. There's going to be some remnant. There's going to be some people with sensus fidelium who will say like, no, no, no. I'm talking to you, those people right now. This after menopause stuff, no bueno, but we're going to keep going with more receipts. Got to get it done right. I don't want to do just a little soundbitey thing and be gone. Now, this is more goo from the Catechism, 1643. Okay, the church continues to affirm this teaching. The goods and requirements of conjugal love. Like I said, two different legal entities. You have a van with a license plate and a serial number on it, and then you have the magical mystery machine, which is the lived experience of the Scooby-Doo and his buddies and everything, and their magical mystery machine. Two different legal things. All right, they're only talking about the magical mystery machine and not the van. They're only talking about conjugal love and not the contract of nature. So they're defining marriage as to infinity and beyond. Conjugal love involves this is the biggest pile of goo ever, which comes from like Familiaris Consortio or somewhere. Conjugal love involves a totality. Well, we don't really care what conjugal love involves because that's not what the law specifies. That's not what we consent to. We don't consent to conjugal love. We consent to marital rights. Those are finite and enumerated. We don't consent to conjugal love, so there's no reason to talk about it. But you are, and it's because we have to add to the nature of marriage to have a legal receptacle for our NFP activities. It's like blowing open the southern border completely because we have to go to Mexico every day or something. So we're just going to say, no, we haven't closed our border. We've expanded our love. It's like, the whole freaking place to get overran. No. This is like a love move. Conjugal love involves a totality in which all the elements of the person, all the elements of the person enter. Wow. Appeal of the body, the instinct, the power of feeling and affectivity. I can feel the affectivity right now, all the way from here. Aspiration of the spirit and will. So we need to have legal aspiration. We need to have legal feelings. And you have a right to feelings. See that? You have a right to appeal of the body, because if you consent to conjugal love, you have a right to appeal of the body. You have a right to all this stuff. And no one can tell you what that is. How much does she have to weigh before it's not valid? All right. Aspirations. Weight is just a number. Power of feeling and affectivity. Aspiration of the spirit and of will. That sounds really great. It aims at a deeply personal unity. What could be better than that? That's what it aims for. Do you have to get it? I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? We need a deep personal unity, and that's what conjugal love aims at. A unity now we're getting into unity wars. And I could make another video about flesh number one, unicaro, whatever. They just say unity so many times that the word loses all meaning, just like Jiminy Jillikers. A unity that beyond union in one flesh. Okay, so it's more than biology, right? Just like the Mystery Machine with Scooby-Doo and friends is more than a van. It's a mystery machine. And legally, it's more than a van now. And so your conjugal love and everything that you've consented to, because NFP needs it to be this way, is more than the union of flesh, dude. It's like more than that, dude. It's like so much more. It leads to a forming of one heart and soul. Ow! Man, so the homos can do that too, because it's more. And like we said, you have to just be open to the secondary. You don't have to pursue that. And the secondary is now the flesh, because it's more than that. This unity thing demands indissolubility. Well, duh. And faithfulness in a definitive mutual giving. Okay, we define the mutual. It's not definitive. Those are just like, that's more gaslighting. It's undefined. It demands indissolubility and faithfulness. Okay, so those are the elements of marriage: permanence and faithfulness. So what's going on here is they're putting this love number one, and if there's love, then you're necessarily going to have, it'll be permanent and it'll be exclusive. This is why if people can sort of bail on their marriage and say, well, I don't have to be permanent. I don't have to be exclusive, because someone wasn't capable of conjugal love, so it's all fake anyway, and I'll just get the annulment. And is open to fertility. Well. So conjugal love demands all these things, but is only open to fertility. Therefore, what is secondary, you only need to be open to it. You know what I mean? Like picnic, rain or shine. We're open to whatever, but we want shine. In a word, it is a question of the normal characteristics of all natural conjugal love, but with a new significance. Oh, you're killing me, man. This is so dumb. New significance, anyone? I don't care about your significance. Hey, if you owe me $500, I don't care how significant your $500 is to you. Just put the green stuff in my hand. Got to get that part. You can save your significance for later. Okay, but with the new significance, which not only purifies and strengthens them, but raises them to the extent of making them the expression of specifically Christian values. Basically, they are saying, look, what we have done now is we've taken the contract and we've injected legal love all over it, and you have to have this legal love first, and the contract becomes secondary if it happens at all. That's what we're saying. And it's a pile of garbage, and it's all super evil because NFP law has created it. And it sounds so good, and it creates its own self-enforcing group of people because everyone's got a hand in their NFP now. If you take the conjugal act away from menopausal, you're going to create a small army of highly dedicated adversaries. That's just one example. This is why NFP can't hang on or can't be overturned, because everyone is injected with it now. Let's keep going. Aquinas. Okay, here we go. This is what we're talking about, the permanent part versus the temporary part. Accordingly, if the menstrual flow be unnatural. So he's talking about he's talking about the conjugal act during menses, okay? Accordingly, if the menstrual flow be unnatural, it is not forbidden in the new law to approach a menstruous woman, both on account of her infirmity, since a woman in that state cannot conceive, and because the issue is the kind of lasting and continuous, so that the husband would have to abstain always for always. Got that? Okay. If you have a defect that's permanent, it's cool. Dig it? Really simple. Any kind of defect that's permanent, you get to do the act. You can't pursue procreation, John. What are you talking about? It's because that's God's plan. That's what's going on. He's allowed it. It's happening. There you go. Okay? However, it says, however, the woman is subject to a natural issue of the menstruum, so her natural bleeding, she can conceive. Moreover, the said issue lasts only a short time, wherefore it is forbidden to approach her. Okay, this is because, Timothy Gordon, it's even though she can conceive, it is officially a non-conception type window. All right, that's what's going on. It's possible because of the way things go, but it's technically a non-fertile time. By the book, that's why you can't approach in the New Testament. All right, so that is a natural, and those are the times you don't do that. In like manner, a woman is forbidden to ask for the debt during that period of time. Okay, and there's the receipt right there, the document. So because procreation is primary, she's not allowed to ask for the debt because she knows what's going on with her. She's not allowed to ask for the debt during that time of the month. She can't do it. So similarly, as I said, when it's a permanent defect, conjugal act is fine. Menopause is not a defect. It's not. It's permanent, non-defect. It's over. Over, that's what it is. And if you still have some remnant of concupiscence that you have to deal with, it's a venial sin, but it's better to do that than to go to a prostitute or something. A mortal sin. More Aquinas, anyone? Here we go. I answered that marriage was instituted especially as fulfilling an office of nature. Wherefore, okay, yeah, office of nature. It's not an office of human nature. Get that straight. It's an office of nature. The same thing that platypuses and everybody does. Nature. Wherefore, that's procreation education. Wherefore, in its act, the movement of nature must be observed. According to which the nutritive power administers the generative power. All right, kids, here's a classic example of crazy Aquinas. You've got to get it straight. It's hard to read, but we're going to get it straight. I pondered this and thought about it and looked at it for a while. And then I took a few days off and I looked at it some more and I got it straight. Ready? Here we go. Marriage was instituted for fulfilling an office of nature, wherefore the nature must be observed, according to which the nutritive power, that means where babies come from, administers to the generative power. So, what that means. That alone, which is an excess of what is for the preservation of the individual. What did I just say? You can read it 5 times over and still not figure it out, but I did figure it out, okay? What alone is an excess of what is required for a baby goes to the preservation of the individual, okay? That means if I owe you $500, I have to give you at least $500, and I could give you a steak dinner on top of it or throw you a party, but I don't have to, but I could, because that's charity. Or I could just be really nice to you. You know, legally, all I have to do is give you the $500, but if I wanted to be really charitable, I could be friendly and talk to you about your feelings and, you know, all that. Run my fingers through your hair, give you the $500. So the translation of what I just said is, nature is for procreation alone, not secondary ends. That's what's going on. And we're going to see how this relates to menopause in a second. For the natural order requires that a thing should be first perfected in itself, and then afterwards it should communicate of its perfection to others. Boy, oh boy, what does that mean? You have to be pursuing procreation, and then after that, anything on top of it is gravy, okay? But you can no longer pursue procreation after menopause. Your window is done. None of this hanging out doing NFP. It's like, if you want to do the act and have the 17 kids. That's the bargain. That's what God wants anyway. What do you want, Muslims in your neighborhood? Don't tell anybody I said that. Anyway, I guess you can if you want. That afterwards it should communicate its perfection to others. And this is also the order of charity, which perfects nature. Very good. That's right. Like I said, do things with charity, but you got to have nature first. What's going on with NFP is it's all charity and nature is a byproduct, a secondary thing. That's what's going on. flipped it on its head. And therefore, since the wife has power over her husband only in relation to the generative power and not in relation to things directed to the preservation of the individual, that would be secondary ends. Give me some remedy of concupiscence, or I want some love, baby. She doesn't have power over that. She only has power over the right to procreation. The husband is bound to pay the debt to his wife in matters pertaining to the begetting of children with due regard to his own welfare. So he does, you do have to take care of yourself, but, and I'll get to more of what this means in a minute. You'll see what I'm talking about. Anyway, so that's the point. It's nature first, secondary ends second. So here are this is the bad guys. These are people throwing objections to St. Thomas Aquinas, right? Further, according to the philosopher, I guess that's Aristotle, marriage is directed to the begetting and rearing of children as well as to the community of life. Where have we heard that before? From Christopher West, JP2, and everybody else. This is wrong, anti-Catholic stuff. It's adding to nature. Marriage is directed toward the begetting of rearing of children as well as the community of life. Now, leprosy is opposed to both of these ends of marriage, since it is a contagious disease. The wife is not bound to cohabit with the leprous husband, and besides that, the disease is transmitted to the offspring. Therefore, it would seem that the wife is not bound to pay the debt to a leprous husband, or non-community building, non-unitive caveman, I said. So yeah, if there's no community of life, she doesn't need, or he or she does not need to pay the debt, because it's not community building and it's non-unitive, right? Because it says right here, marriage is directed to the community of life. So if you don't have that, but let's see what Aquinas says. On the contrary, as a slave is the power of his master. Are you comparing my wife to a slave? Are you comparing me to a slave? As the slave is in the power of his master, so is one spouse in the power of the other. Yeah. 1 Corinthians 7:4. But a slave is bound by an obligation of precept to pay his master the debt of his service, according to Romans. Render to all men their dues, tribute to them who tribute is due. Therefore, husband and wife are mutually bound to the payment of the marriage debt for the procreation. Okay? But the bad guys come back. Further, they say, it is lawful for everyone to abstain from what is hurtful to his person. Sound familiar? If it ain't unitive, I ain't grooving with it. You give me some unity, or the answer is no. And this is where the simp factory comes in. So the bad guys are giving them some theology of the body. Further, it is lawful for everyone to abstain from what is hurtful to his person. But it is sometimes harmful to a person to pay the debt when asked, whether on account of sickness or because they have already paid it. Therefore, it would seem allowable to refuse the one who asks. Secondary ends, anyone? Boy, my marital debt request that you've given me, I don't like it because I'm not feeling the love here. And John Paul II and all this, everyone else is saying it's all about love, and more love. And I'm not feeling the love. Therefore, I don't have to pay the debt. There is no marital debt. The only marital debt is the one that I'm going to give when I feel like it. So you have no right unless I want to give you the right. And you have to give it to me every time, or I have to give it to you every time. Therefore, the marriage consent was just consent to more consent. Stupid, dumb, retarded, which is why I say NFP destroys marital law. There is no law. And therefore, anyone who is in authority in marriage has no recourse. It's really bad. But I've done other videos on that where that you do have recourse if you know the law, the canon law, and you stick to your guns. Okay, so what does Aquinas say to that objection? That because if it's going to kind of hurt me, I don't want to have to do the debt. I have an excuse. What does he say? The wife has no power over her husband's body except as consistent with the welfare of his person, as stated above. Wherefore, if she go beyond this in her demands, it is not a request for the debt, but an unjust exaction. For this is the reason the husband is not bound to satisfy her. So that he's trying to say, look, you have to have charity too, and you have to show the welfare of the person, but the welfare comes second, okay, not primarily. That's the overall point. The debt is for procreation, and as long as you're not hurting the other person while pursuing procreation, you have to get the order right, or you can start refusing the marital debt on, well, I'm super not feeling united and right now, so you have to work it. No, because unity is not, it is secondary, but with NFP it's primary. St. Francis de Sales, anyone? Intro to the Devout Life French version. That's the one that's very hard to get. Now, this is pretty good, kids. This is what we're getting at more in regarding the major thrust of this video, which is menopause sinful? Okay. In like manner, the nuptial commerce, which is so holy, just, and commendable in itself, when it is done right, with the right reason, and is so profitable to the commonwealth, is nevertheless in certain cases dangerous to those who exercise it, for it frequently debilitates the soul with venial sin. How does that happen? Hey, if I'm just doing the natural conjugal act, when can it be venial sin? For what? As in cases of mere and simple excess. What is mere and simple excess? When you are pursuing something other than procreation. That's what it is. That's what it is. We just read about it in Aquinas. That's why I went all through this Aquinas. Excess. It's up here somewhere. There, right there. That alone which is in excess of what is required for the preservation of that alone which is in excess. So the nutritive power administers to the generative power, and that which is in excess of what is required. So anything extra is for the personal good of the spouses. Anything left over is for the good of the spouses, but you got to do the generative power. So if you are, so de Sales correctly points out that if you are doing the conjugal act for something other than procreation, hello menopause, venial sin. Because what are you doing it for? Why are you throwing those seeds on the cement? For what reason? Farming? No. Secondary ends. That's excess. And sometimes it kills effectually by mortal sin, as when the order appointed for procreation of children is violated and perverted. That happens when you are fertile, you're 25 years old, and you mess up the order because you are you're doing a method. You are actualizing an act of plan so that you pervert the end. But NFP says there is no end because it's all love. So you're just cruising for your love and there's no more end. This is why everything gets trashed. It's like you open the border to the USA. Oh, we still have a border. We still have a country. No, you don't. You say you do, but you don't because you have no border. If you have no order in the marriage, you have no marriage. Hello, mutual submission, and divorce is not a sin, and consent is optional, as invalid consent, because you can always get your annulment. In which case, as one departs more or less from it, the sins are more or less abominable, but always mortal. Yeah, NFP, contraception, onanism, those are more or less abominable than each other, but they're always mortal. For the procreation of children being the principal end of marriage, this is juicy. Okay, kids, check this out. One may never lawfully depart from the order which that end requires, though on account of some accident or circumstance, it cannot at that time be brought about. Okay, so you can never lawfully depart from the order for the end requires, but on account of some accident, or so an accident would be, a defect or circumstance. Pick your circumstance. That's like the monthly cycle or nursing a lot or whatever. It cannot be at that time be brought about, as it happens when there's barrenness. Okay, that would be the permanent defect, or pregnancy. Yeah. Okay, so you can never lawfully depart from the order, or when barrenness or pregnancy prevents generation. Also, barrenness would be after menopause. So if you got menopause, you got pregnancy, if that prevents generation. In these occurrences, corporal commerce may be just and holy, provided the rules of generation be followed. You've got to follow the rules of generation when you're doing whatever it is. So you're 25 years old, you're 75 years old. You're nursing, you're not nursing. You're pregnant, you're not pregnant. You're menopause, you're not menopause. You always have to follow the rules of generation. All those things can be just and holy as long as you're following the rules of generation. So he's trying to not restrict like the 5 minutes and 22 seconds after you know you're pregnant, it's a sin. No, he's saying as long as you apprehend what's going on and you decide, you figure out, you know you're pregnant or you know you are menopause, then follow the rules of generation. It's an indulgence if it's, are you doing sexual excess? Are you doing excess during menopause? Yes. So it's just and holy unless it's simple excess, then it's venial sin right there. Anyone want to argue with me about this? Anyone want me to make it more clear? I'm super nice. I'm not a big jerk. I don't go all over the place. I keep it real simple. Just the facts, ma'am. Jim Blackburn, that's his name. He is, like I said, from Catholic Answers. Taught me how to argue. That's one of the best things he ever did for me. Taught me how to keep it real simple. Okay, a little Alapide. I've done this in other videos. You got to check this out. It's really not long. Hold on. And come together again for this. Peter Martyr and the whoever the heck conclude that it is not lawful for married persons to vow perpetual continence by mutual consent. Okay, those are Protestant bad guys. But the answer to this is that the apostle is not prescribing but permitting the marriage act. Okay? Okay, so these bad guys are saying that it is not lawful for married persons to vow perpetual continence by mutual consent. That's like Josephite marriage. But the answer to this is the apostle is not prescribing but permitting the marriage act. Verse 6, 1 Corinthians. But I speak this by permission and not commandment. That is like I was saying before, it's the indulgence. I permit the act of copulation by way of indulgence. I do not prescribe it. Nay, St. Augustine says, take this by way of pardon. The Greek word denotes forgiveness, and hence St. Augustine gathers that it is a venial sin to have sexual connection not for the sake of children but for carnal pleasure. Why are you having relations after pregnancy, after menopause? It's not for children, therefore it's for pleasure. Those are your only two options. And to avoid the temptation of Satan, for pardon is given to what is sinful. Okay? So too indulgence is given to what concerns sin, or at all events a lesser good, as St. Thomas has rightly observed. We already covered the St. Thomas in there. Same dang thing. So too indulgence is given to what concerns sin. That's an indulgence. 1 Corinthians 7:6. So that there is no precept, that there is no precept here is also evident. We do not have to increase and multiply. There's no precept. Because the apostle permits married people to contain for a time that they may give themselves to prayer and fasting. Therefore, if they agree to devote their whole life to fasting and prayer, he permits them to contain themselves for life. That's right. You don't have to have kids. Don't have to. That's it. Now, we got one more little comment here. We have not even figured out what St. Alphonsus says about this. We haven't. The reason is because he's got a huge book called the Theologia Moralis. It's all in Latin. It's slowly being put into English. I'm going to have to jump the gun and try to find some more. I'm going to have to do OCR scanning and get the parts I want, because I don't want to wait till I'm 120 years old to get it. I guarantee you St. Alphonsus rejects NFP. Guarantee 100%. St. Alphonsus isn't wrong. The Pope say you can take whatever he says to the bank. He totally goes with Aquinas on this stuff. We're going to get to the bottom of what St. Alphonsus says. I'm going to have to work on that. I got too much to work on, though. I just wanted to put that in there for you guys. So after all that, if you're still not convinced that relations after menopause is venial sin, then be sure to take it to the comment section and we'll hash it out. Everyone else, click like, please. Don't forget, if you're not against NFP, you're not on the team, so go out there and stay toxic.
Those menopause blues, those menopause blues. And tell me who put the man in menopause, 'cause they don't feel a thing as I recall. you daiquiri, you don't care about the libation. 'Cause girl, I know what you need is a little conversating. Let's raise a glass or two. It's the least we can do. Together we get through those menopause blues. Let's share a laugh or two. It's the least we can do. Together we get through those menopause